Okay, so let's get back to it. So what I was saying is I work with creative businesses specifically. I do also work with corporate businesses who are trying to be more creative, which is quite promising in the sense that I think so many corporate brands have room for innovative thinking and creativity as a whole. So that's what basically I do if we had to sum it up. Over and above that, my past experience comes from a luxury fashion background. I worked in London at Burberry's head office. I've worked and collaborated with Mr. Price here locally. I've also worked within blogging for many, many years. And so from all of that, I've created my brand, which then is, as Carrie mentioned, to empower others to create the best brand that they can. And today I wanted to chat to you not just about creative business as a whole, but about the rules that we've set within our lives. So this can stretch across creative business and it can stretch across just life in general and how we basically go about our lives and the rules that we've created. And some of those rules don't necessarily come from anywhere. Very often they are rules that we've made for ourselves. And that's one of the challenges I've seen covered the most this year, in the sense of people coming to my office. It was fairly early in the year already when I did have people who were already overwhelmed, and kind of started breaking this down and seeing a little bit of a trend of people repeatedly coming in and already saying to me, in January, February, I feel overwhelmed. I feel, like I can't do it all. And when we started breaking down what their priorities were, what they were actually trying to achieve, so much of what was holding them back and so much of what was basically this overwhelming feeling that they had within their hearts came from rules that they had shaped or created themselves based on the basic recipe of life or the traditional way of looking at things that we taught. And from the day that we get to understand rules, we also find a way to want to break rules. We think we're quite smart when we're little and we break rules. We find ways to, cheat our way through things, not always in a negative sense, but more in we're just curious to see what happens. What happens if I break the rules? The problem is, as we get older, we realize that breaking rules isn't necessarily the right thing. We also try and impart that wisdom on our children, on our clients, on our, family. Rules are there to keep us safe. Rules are there to protect us and keep us in line. The thing with that is it's very difficult in a country like South Africa to sometimes think that rules are there to look after us. Very often here we get frustrated by rules because we see people not following them. And so we look at some rules and we choose which ones we want to follow and which ones we don't. And the rules that I specifically find people are very, very strongly focused on and stick to and kind of put upon themselves are the rules that society have created. So not legally binding rules where you'll get in trouble. It's things like routine or the basics that they believe govern their life. The things that basically shape how they run their average day, how they run their business, essentially. Additionally, I find that people, what they also do with that rule information is that they shape it on what they think other people are doing and how other people are building and running their businesses. And when we do, as entrepreneurs, make our big escape from corporate and we aim to kind of be liberated and we envision how we're going to spend our days being creative and being fulfilled and joyful and hopeful, the flip side of that are the people who arrive in my office and are overwhelmed and burdened and basically say very honestly, this is not what I wanted and this is not what I expected it to be. And then I sit with them over a nice cup of tea because I love to make my clients a special cup of tea and make them feel safe and be able to talk to me. And then we dissect, what is the problem? Why are you feeling so overwhelmed? And as I've already said, so much of that comes back to these rules that have been created. Some of the common rules that we face are timing. So we think we need to have the average 8 to 4 or 9 to 5 job. We stick to a certain routine, or at least we try to. We think that we need to sacrifice everything for work because the rest of the world is up until 2 a.m. And so I too should be up until 2 a.m. doing my job, because if I'm not doing that, then surely something somewhere isn't correct. And what I try and share with everybody is it doesn't have to be that way if you create your own rules. So these are not rules where I'm saying don't pay your taxes or don't do your filing or give up on admin, or rules, the nice ones that I wish I could give you off, specifically the tax ones, because I know that's the one that really irritates my clients, all the filing and the paperwork. So I'm not giving you a free pass on the bad rules, sorry, but I am giving you a pass on the rules that you create yourself. And that's just what is at the heart of it. It's the rules you create. It's not some recipe that when you are born, you get given this manual and it says, if you follow these rules, everything will be perfect, your life will run smoothly. Unfortunately, sometimes that's the way we feel. We believe that if we tick all the boxes of, going through school and trying our best, studying, getting married, having a baby, buying a house, all those things, working hard, that everything should fall into place. And technically it should. However, what's not taken into consideration with that type of recipe thinking is we forget that we have emotions. And as creative people, we need a little bit more than just a routine, just a 9 to 5, just a ticking of the boxes. And that's what I really want to encourage you to think about, is the boxes that you feel you have to tick, but that you actually have complete and utter control over. So it's an element of having peace of mind to know that I don't have to do it this way. I can do it the way I would like to do it to suit my lifestyle and ultimately to suit the goals that I have for my business. And it's quite a liberating feeling once you start thinking about it. At first you feel guilty, but once you really embrace it, it's something that will ultimately change the way you think, and it will change your life. So I just want to go through a few of the very basic, see how big rules is written there, just to show you how hardcore they are, These are some of the rules that we have. We have our personal and business boundaries. So these are things that often people don't think about before they start a business, or even when they are within their business already. We don't think about the things that affect us negatively, and how, if we know what they are before we start, even if we're in the middle of our journey, if we know what those things are, we can create rules for ourselves that protect us, essentially, and protect our creative journey. So what I really encourage all my clients and all of you to do is to understand the things that allow you to not do your job at the best of your ability. Things like protecting your creative work, or is it perhaps a case of the payment terms that you need to have? It's okay, but understand what those things are up front, and then you can communicate them effectively, and therefore people are educated over time to learn to respect them. The thing with boundaries, they're just like rules. We like to break them, we like to push them, and we like to think of them negatively. But if we're aware of the boundaries that protect us, and we can say 80% of the time we'll hold those within a high regard, we as creatives can feel far more empowered. So as I said, it's the type of things like knowing that you need a 50% deposit to begin a job, securing understanding for people to secure your time by appointment as opposed to just arriving. Just the respect elements that you need in order to do your job to your best of your ability. So understand your personal ones as well as your business ones. Personal ones are often rooted in emotion. So they're the things that allow us to get down, to feel like we're not doing a good job, to feel let down by ourselves, when often it's not we're not let down by ourselves, but rather by something someone else has done without really thinking about how it impacts us. So understand both personally how you work best, and within your business. Set your own boundaries and rules, and then educate people on how they are. It is a challenge, but it's definitely a worthwhile one taking on. Priorities is the second one. When we understand what our priorities are, we are able to, again, make them a priority. That doesn't quite make sense, but think about it in this sense. If we know that we would like to spend a certain amount of time with our family, we can prioritize it as opposed to it falling off the list. And priorities, especially personal ones, are the first ones that fall away within creative businesses because we push those boundaries further than they need to be. We often think we have to work all hours, and we forget to have time to make meals with family or friends. We think everything has to be about work. But it's really important to understand your personal priorities, so things like family and friends, meals, health, the things that are important for you, again, to run at your ultimate sort of speed and creativity level. Sorry. The next one is routine. Understand a routine that works for you. This is, again, something as creative business owners where they think they have to wake up at a certain time and they have to end at a certain time. And I do encourage you to have a routine and not to hang out in your pajamas all day. It's very tempting. Those fluffy slippers are comfy and warm, so you can sit at your laptop wearing them. But I really encourage you to carve out your own routine. If you need to take an afternoon off to take care of one of your priorities, or to spend time with your family or your children, or to catch up on something that's important to you, do that. Schedule it in. Make time for it, because it's really important. No one else is going to look after those things on your behalf. And usually when we realize that we haven't been taking care of these things, it's because we've suffered due to not taking care of them. The next thing is understanding guilt. As women specifically, and I'm sure as guys too, but I can really speak for women, guilt is something that is at the core of our being. As when we are unmarried, we often feel guilty because we're not yet married. When we're married, are we spending enough time with our family? If we own a business, are we spending enough time with our within our business? And then when we're within our business, am I spending enough time at home? And so we live in a cycle of guilt, trying to understand why we never quite feel settled, even when we are exactly where we are supposed to be. And I say to you, really, understand your guilt, think about it, and then understand if it's actually warranted. Because in most cases, you are where you are supposed to be. And if that is with a family member, or getting a pedicure because you really need one, or you need a relaxing afternoon off, understand that and do away with guilt. Because if we plan effectively and we schedule in what is needed and we do the work required at the best level that we can due to looking after our boundaries and our priorities, we should be able to create so much more of our own routine, but also let it go of that guilt, because it's so unnecessary and it's wasting creative brain cells that could be used for creating your next best invention or the most innovative product somewhere. So let go of it, whether you are male or female, but I know for women specifically, guilt is a big one. The next one is negotiate. For some reason, as creatives, we think that we just have to take what is given to us. We're not allowed to say, well, you know what? That doesn't quite suit me, so how about I meet you halfway? Or can we work on these terms? Or I understand your terms. For me to do this work, I do require this. How can we work around this? Don't just accept what you are given, not because it comes from a place of being ungrateful, but because you have to look after your best interests and your priorities. And if you don't want to do that for yourself as a person, then at least do it for the sake of your business. Because often once we separate business and personal, we understand how important it is to actually look after that element of what we do. So it's super important to be focused on that and understand it further. So ask for what you want, and also understand by negotiating, you can often protect your business so much more, because you're not going to get yourself in a situation signing a contract and signing part of your business away which doesn't suit you. Not all opportunity is good opportunity, but sometimes we can turn something into something far more positive just by working on terms and understanding the boundaries that within that. Then we need to educate and discipline. This is the tough one. I myself battle with it on a weekly basis. It's basically we have to train people or teach people how to treat us. It's the first thing we also back away from, because again, we feel guilty if we stand up for ourselves. And this is not standing up for ourselves in a negative way or fighting with people or turning it into something nasty. It's just a case of saying, this is how I work. In order to have a respectful relationship, I would please ask that you also work with me on this. We have to repeat ourselves. We have to have it on our invoices. We have to reiterate it in our emails. But over time, we teach people that our time is valuable, no more valuable than theirs, but mutually we need to respect that. We need to understand that by having that in place, again, we can protect ourselves and work at our best level of creativity. And then we need to finally figure out what actually works. One routine is not necessarily going to be your only routine. One set of boundaries is not going to be your only set of boundaries. So it's actually a case of evolving instead of just changing. Changing is it's an impermanent state, whereas if we evolve, we actually get to a level of being that one level better, and from that evolved level, we can then improve a little bit more. So it's a case of taking 5 steps forward, 5 steps back. That's change, because very few of us stick with our change. Evolution, on the other hand, is taking those 5 steps forward, staying there, taking a look at what we're dealing with, what has changed around us, how we can take that upon us, and then further evolve into how we work at our best level. So both creatively as business owners, but also within our routines, our boundaries, our priorities, all the little things that make our life what it is. And at the heart of it all, I want you to remember, a happy person will equal a healthy business. That is what is key also. So again, with that comes responsibility, with that comes rules, those nasty rules that I had big and bold at the beginning of my talk. But it's so key and so important to find a way to work within your own life. I know that there are things that we need to respect, and of course we will do that, but within your own life, empower yourself to make the decisions that will allow you to evolve into this person that you deserve to be. I hope that you will go out and think about your own rules. I hope that you will challenge yourself to maybe shift your routine, change it, make time for things that are important, make time for family, make time for eating. That seems to be one that falls off the list. People eating lunch at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and thinking that it has to be like that. Absolutely doesn't have to be like that. So I'm not saying that we're going to have 7 perfect days a week, but if we can have 4 or 5 and maybe eventually 7 fairly balanced days, and it's not a 50-50 balance, but it is a balance that works for us, we really will become the people, the business owners, and just essentially the creative minds that we are able to. So I want to leave you with that, and I want to send you on your own journey of creativity. And you're most welcome to chat to me more if you like. I know there are a few of you arrived early because I did say there was a little giveaway for the first people who did arrive. So I will chat to you also. But thank you very, very much for attending. Thank you. And you'll see that I use this hashtag on Instagram for all my talks, my workshops, so you can see a whole bunch of them, my past events that I've taken part in, and you can also share your own photos with me there. I'd love to hear from you online if you did attend today, or even just to chat to you after this talk. So thank you once again, and have a lovely, inspired day.
Bold has a huge imagination, a playground of innovation, color, and design, showing up where we least expect it, and taking inspiration from our wildest dreams. Because Bold doesn't see the world in fixtures and faucets. Bold reimagines, building castles, oceans, and lagoons that stand the test of time in the place we call home. Bold is where everyone comes to play, starting our day off with a good dance and singing us to sleep at night. coloring our lives in ways only Bold could do. It's no wonder the world can't wait to see what Bold does next.